Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Perez. My name is Miss Pitcairn. I have been working with your son, Jose, over the course of this semester on his reading and writing skills. I would like to first off start off saying that your son is on the right track to being exactly where he needs to be and being very ready to start sixth grade. So the first thing I want to show you is we started off this semester doing a motivation to read profile, and basically what this profile says is it's just kind of good for a teacher to give to a student right before they to get to know them and know what their feelings are about reading, just anything to know about what they like to read, what reading struggles they may have, and anything in that sort of playing field. So this is what the motivation to read profile looks like. It's a series of 20 questions. There's a front and a back. And for example, a few of the questions are like, my friends think I'm a good reader. And Jose responded, I'm an okay reader. Another question is, I tell my friends about good books I read. His answer was, I do this some of the time. An answer back here is, reading is, and he answered, very easy for me. So it's just questions like that to kind of get them informed and even have them learn about themselves and what they like to read. So there's two different columns for this survey. There is a self-concept score and a value of reading score. His self-concept score was a 31 out of 40, and his value of reading score was 35 out of 40, for a total of 66 out of 80. So most of his interests and reading levels are right where they need to be and typical for somebody of his age. Some things I thought were interesting was the question was, in the self-concept as a reader, it's what's hard about reading? And his answer was, sometimes the way the author word things. And that can be very difficult for a reader at this level, because sometimes authors try to dig a little bit deeper and see in different perspectives, and that can be something that's challenging for students as they are moving on to tougher reading levels. Basically, this overall motivation to read profile, he said he likes to read. He has a certain type of books that he likes, which are like comic type books or funny books. So overall, this gave me a good representation of where I would see him when we do our reading activities, when we do other things. And I think this is a really beneficial survey to give to children, because it does let the teacher know exactly where their reading interests and beliefs lie. So that was the first one. Our second assessment was called the Quick Phonics Screener. This assessment is a series of 9 tasks with an A and B part to each task. And since Jose is in the 5th grade, we go ahead and start at task 3. So task 3 is going to be right here. So as you can see, there's an A and a B part to each task. So the reason we start on task 3 for 5th grade is because task 1 and task 2 are basically just asking about letter sounds, letter names, vowel consonant, and consonant vowel consonant words. And at this point, and especially where his previous reading level is, he proved that he was ready to go ahead and just start at task 3, which is consonant vowel consonant consonant and consonant consonant vowel consonant words. So that just means words that, like, for example, gasp, that would be a consonant vowel consonant consonant word. So starting on this Quick Phonics Screener scoring form, task 3 all the way up to task 8, Jose scored a 10 out of 10, 100% on every task. These tasks include task 4 being silent E and CVC words, consonant vowel consonant with a silent E at the end, are controlled vowels. So an example of these would be cart, pork, verb, shirt, and so on. And then reading are controlled vowels in a text. So the dark tar on his torn shirt burned and hurt him. So examples like that. Task 6 contained consonant digraphs. So these are words like with the sounds of th, and then ng and sh and w and ch and ig and ck and sounds like that. So words that are like lick, sling, sunk, wrap, ship, and so on. And he scored perfectly on reading all of these. Task B was just reading those consonant digraphs in the text. So the ducks chomp on the knot. What is that on the right? Perfect. Task 7 contained vowel digraphs and diphthongs. And these are a combination of vowels put together. So, for example, it would be like words with OA, words with EA, double O, double E, AI. So some examples of these words would be foam, roast, flee, creek, mood, waste, so on. And he scored perfectly. There was 30 of these, so this portion was out of 30, and he got all 30 correct. Moving on to task 8 is where we just had one minor bump in the road, and this was about prefixes and suffixes. For students in this age, these words can be more challenging because prefixes have a meaning, and that's why they're attached onto the root word. So examples of these would be words that start with dis, non, in, re, and then words that end with suffixes such as shon, tion, aus, ness, able. And some examples of these words are discount, dismiss, mission, intent, drinkable, so on. And the one that Jose did get tripped up on was beneath. He gave a couple great shots at trying to read this word, and he just couldn't get the beneath sound. He kept saying beneth or beneth. He just wasn't getting that EA sound in the middle of the word neath. And once I did read it to him after he struggled on it, he totally understood it, and I think we'll be able to read it every time now. And then moving on to task 9, he did, once again, exceptionally well. On task 9A, these were multiple syllable words, such as moment, mascot, address, escape, punish, and so on. So those are 2-syllable words. Moving on to task 3, these are 3-syllable words. And he scored a 9 out of 10 on this portion, just missing the word amputate, which can be a tricky word. He kept saying words that sounded like amputate but weren't amputate. Other words that were in this section that he got with no problem were liberty, electric, entertain, segregate. So he is understanding it, just that one was difficult for him. And then on task 9C, these were 4-syllable words. And he scored a 9 out of 10 on this part, which is great. The word that he had trouble with was particular. Again, saying words that he thought sounded like it, such as practice, or he saw those same letters he's seen before, he just couldn't make out the word. Other words that he did get correct in this section were inventory, prehistoric, vitality, solitary. So he is understanding this. Just there were a few things during that did confuse him, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's definitely on the right track on his quick phonics screener and being able to read important words that will be in his day-to-day, every day. All right, so moving on to our next assessment, we have the feature guide for intermediate spelling inventory. And this was probably where Jose had the most difficulty overall, the assessments we assessed all through the semester. Spelling is not taught. We don't have curriculum for spelling, so it can be very difficult for students. They are able to recognize the word when they're reading it, but when they're just hearing it and being asked to spell it, this is where it can get very tricky for a student who doesn't have a spelling curriculum. So overall, on his spelling inventory, He took it on just a notebook sheet of paper, and I was able to go back and star the ones that were correct. He did get just an 8 out of 25 on the spelling inventory, and this is putting him at the early spelling stage. Typically, we'd want him to at least be in like the middle or late spelling stage, knowing that he is understanding this, but it's all a process, and we will get him there. The words that he did struggle with the most were words with, so on this spelling inventory sheet up here, right up here, there are all the different categories which the words come from. And the one he had the most trouble with were harder prefixes, suffixes, and unaccented final syllables. Some of these words were words such as confusion, visible, criticize. So these are difficult words, and all throughout the whole spelling inventory, there is a bottom section with feature points, and each feature point has a different number but in his short vowels, he got a 2 out of 4. In his consonant digraphs and blends, he got a 4 out of 4. Long vowel patterns, a 2 out of 4. Other vowel patterns, such as AR, UR, IR, he got a 4 out of 5. Another area where he struggled more was his complex consonants, which he got a 1 out of 4. These are sounds such as CK, TCH, SQU, and so on. Syllable, junctions, prefixes, and suffixes. He got a 7 out of 9, so this was a stronger category. The next category is the one where he had the most trouble of harder prefixes, suffixes, and unaccented final syllables, where he scored a 4 out of 12. And then in his reduced vowels and based roots, he got a 4 out of 8, with a total of 28 out of 50 feature points and an 8 out of 25 with words spelled correctly. He is aware that you could tell during when the spelling inventory was given that he was frustrated. As he was taking it, he did kind of tug on his hair, showed some frustration, and that's totally normal when there isn't a spelling curriculum and you aren't like exposed to this all the time. It can make for it to be frustrating, and that's why it's going to be something we continue to work on and try to incorporate it and integrate it into curriculum as much as possible elsewhere. So just because he is only at an 8 out of 25 on these words doesn't mean for other words he could have done great, but on a lot of these words he just missed just one letter, a silent letter, or just heard something a little off, but he was close, and he does understand the main portions and sounds of words. There's just a little disconnect with certain areas, but overall we'll continue to work on spelling, and he will continue to succeed and improve on it. So for our last assessment, we did a Fountas and Pinnell reading guide, and what these are is Jose started at a level R. So he was tested on a level R instructional reading level called The Election. And what he does is, right here is the text of the book that I give him. And as he reads, I go ahead and listen as he reads, and I make marks on words he got correct, if he read all the words correctly, if he had self-corrections, any errors that he might have made. And as you can see, check marks all down here mean that he read these rows correctly with no errors. Right here where you see this word written above the other word is that the word is gazing that's actually in the text, but Jose pronounced it grazing. So that's a self-correction, and that he went back. He first said grazing, and then he said, oh, that's not right, it's actually gazing, but I have to put above that he originally said grazing, but then knew to go back and fix it. So on the first page, he had 0 errors and 1 self-correction. On the second page, here's the text all again. As you can see, most rows are read correctly with check marks at the end of all of them, with just 2 self-correction errors on this page, with the word bottled, or with the word bolted being said bottled and going back and fixing it, and then the word flooding being said floated and going back and fixing it. So again, he did great. And then at the end of this page, this is where I'm done reading, following along with him and scoring him. And then he goes and finishes reading silently by himself while I continue to time him. His overall seconds with the reading was 240 seconds, which is 3 minutes and 58 seconds with minutes and seconds. So he overall did very well. His accuracy rate was in the 99% percentile, and his self-corrections was just 3 overall. For the next section, this is where the comprehension conversation comes into play. This is where we ask the student questions about the text that they just read, being able to use the text and going back and looking at their previous reading if they need help going back and finding the answers. So on this part, I was told before that he had a couple understanding problems when he was first tested on this reading. And for the whole comprehension part, he scored a 3 out of 3, showing excellent understanding of the text, includes almost all important information and main ideas. So this proves to me that he understands what he just read and that he can go back and talk about it and be aware of what he just read. Then the last part, part 3, is writing about the reading. The question he had to ask was, describe how Jill felt and tell what advice you would give her to get her through her speech. You can draw a sketch to go with your drawing. He gave an excellent in-depth answer, saying to take a deep breath. If she is feeling shy, breathe out 10 times and look at someone who she knows will love her speech and won't notice the 100 other people listening to her speech. So he understood that she was nervous and that she just needed to pick one person in the audience and go for it and focus on them, because if you're looking at everyone, it's going to be stressful. But he understood that if she just picks one person in the audience, that's the only one she needs to focus on, and everything will go great. So overall, Jose is understanding his level R instructional level and can probably move on to a level S reader to be tested on next. So overall, Jose is doing phenomenal in his reading and writing subjects of school. One area we are focusing more on is spelling and being able to become familiar with prefix, suffix, and root words and get those mastered, because that's where his main difficulties came in the Quick Phonics Screener, reading those words, and then in the spelling inventory, also writing those words without seeing them. So that is our main area of focus that we're going to continue to work on, and can hopefully just keep building up from there. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, and it's been a pleasure meeting with you. Thank you.